Flash flood updates for the Ohio Valley, but also New Mexico for October 7th, 2025. Good morning, I'm Miraj Pugh, and just like how I mentioned yesterday, we are continuing that flash flood risk, and for both areas of concern, we can see rainfall totals from 1 to 2 inches. The time frames of when this is all going to occur, places in the Ohio Valley, you guys have already been seeing rain from yesterday, last night, and it's going to continue on this morning, but things will start diminishing around late this evening to about midnight Eastern time. But even though these storms are going to be moving away from the Ohio Valley, all these storms will continue in the northeast and into the northeast coast. So for the northeast, you may be already seeing something right now, but things are going to continue pretty much throughout the afternoon, evening, actually pretty much all day. But things are going to start reaching to the northeast coast around late tonight into next morning. For central New Mexico specifically, it looks like things are going to start initiating around 1 p.m. Mountain Time, and this is going to last throughout the day and also into the night. But in addition to this, we also may see isolated supercells where there may be damaging winds and large hail. And why this is all happening, if we look at 500 millibars or midway through the troposphere, we still have that really elongated trough, though it's more of kind of a ridge around the southwest at this point. But regardless, we still have some southwesterly flow going beyond Baja California, and with that we have two tropical cyclones. We have Hurricane Priscilla and we have Tropical Storm Octave. And this is interesting because some of the mid-level moisture from the outer bands of Octave have actually been caught on by that southwesterly flow and is now being dragged into New Mexico. And soon as Hurricane Priscilla reaches adjacent to the Baja California coastline, it's going to be affecting a lot of moisture into places like Arizona and New Mexico for the upcoming days. Now this doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to have a hurricane for the west coast, but it does mean that we're going to have a lot of more monsoonal conditions. Now speaking of hurricanes, if we look at the Atlantic, we do have a tropical disturbance that we've been looking at, and there's a 90% chance of something forming in the next 48 hours. So most likely by tomorrow's video, we'll probably have a lot more information on what's going to happen. Okay, now back inland and still looking at 500 millibars at this elongated trough, we have a lot of decent shear, which is going to be prolonging those storms by tilting those updrafts. And with this trough, we are having some more northerly wind, and that's bringing in a lot of cool air. And with this trough, it is help navigating that cold front that we're seeing. And so with that being said, looking at the surface, we do have freeze warnings for the upper Midwest. And we do have a pretty strong and broad high pressure around the North Dakota, Minnesota area. And that's doing two things. One, it's sinking down more cooler air. But two, with that clockwise flow, it's bringing in that northerly wind into these areas and also aiding that cold front. And so speaking of cold fronts, we have that low pressure that came from the Gulf yesterday and is finally about to merge with the cold front, which is enhancing the convection that we're seeing in the Ohio Valley specifically. And we can see this low pressure pretty clearly because we look at a current surface map, we can see it centered around the southern Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky area. And with this low pressure, we're going to have a lot of surface convergence. Basically, the winds are going to be going towards the low pressure, but also colliding. And because we have the ground, they have to go up, so the winds are going to provide more upward motion. And because we know we have southwesterly shear, it's going to tilt those updrafts to the northeast, which is exactly why we're seeing most of the convection happen northeast of the low pressure. And then not to mention, this low pressure also brought in a lot of warm, moist air into this area, which is going to help reinforce the cold front because cold air will sink and will push that warm air up.